Hello and good evening. This is the World News on your premium talk radio, Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt. I am Faustina Uputu. And the headlines: Port Harcourt residents lament soaring food prices amid economic hardship. INEC begins nationwide voter registration August 18. On the foreign scene, Senegal to raise $10 billion by 2028 to avert debt crisis. Details in a moment. And now the details of the news. Factional chairman of the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State, Emeka Beke, has called on the national leadership of the party to urgently intervene and take control of issues affecting the party in the state. Beke made the appeal during his visit to the newly sworn-in national chairman of the APC, Professor Nentawe Yilwatda. He urged the national chairman to stop recognizing the Tony Okocha-led faction of the party, citing a court judgment that affirmed him and his state executive as the authentic leadership of the party in Rivers State. According to Beke, the intervention is necessary ahead of the forthcoming local government elections and as part of efforts to strengthen the party. Responding to questions from newsmen about his continued alliance with the leader of the national opposition coalition in the South-South, Rotimi Amechi, Beke stated that before Amechi's defection to the ADC, every APC member in Rivers State, including the national vice chairman South-South, Victor Gadom, was a political product of Amechi. Today FM reports that before submitting a document containing his complaints, Beke briefed the national chairman on the implications of APC's participation in the forthcoming council elections, given the ongoing litigations and the role of the state's sole administrator. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says the 2025 Continuous Voter Registration CVR exercise will begin nationwide on August 18. INEC disclosed this on its X handle today. The agency said online pre-registration of voters would open on August 18 through its official portal, cvr.inecnigeria.org. It stated that the in-person registration would begin a week later on August 25. This, it said, would be held nationwide at all its local government area offices and designated registration centers. INEC said the exercise will be held from Monday to Friday, beginning at 9 a.m. and ending at 3 p.m. The sole administrator of Rivers State, retired Vice Admiral Ibokete Bass, has charged members of the National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) to uphold moral and ethical values in all their engagements as they commence their national service. Ibas made the call during the swearing-in ceremony of the 2025 Batch B Stream 1 Corps members deployed to Rivers State, held at the NYSC Permanent Orientation Camp in Noagbam, Thai local government area. Represented by the Secretary to the State Government and Chairman of the NYSC State Governing Board, Professor Ibibia Warika, Ibas urged the Corps members to align themselves with the administration's ongoing character reformation agenda aimed at fostering a society rooted in integrity, mutual trust, and discipline. The administrator assured the Corps members of his government's commitment to their security and welfare, adding that renovation works on hostels at the orientation camp would soon commence to ensure a more conducive environment for their stay.
It has enabled Corps members to fulfill the federal government's policy thrust of reconciliation, rehabilitation, and reconstruction after the unfortunate Nigerian Civil War of 1967 to 1970. It gladdens my heart to note that the scheme has over the years continued to make giant strides in the fields of agriculture. Please take full advantage of the NYC Skills Acquisition and Entrepreneurship Development Program here in the camp and hereafter in the camp as well. It's a worthwhile initiative that will boost the spirit of industry and self-reliance amongst Corps members and inspire you all to contribute positively to the economic growth and development of the nation and eradication of graduate unemployment.
Earlier in his remarks, the NYSC State Coordinator in Rivers State, Moses Olege, described the Corps members as custodians of the nation's hope for a peaceful and economically prosperous future and encouraged them to view themselves as agents of positive change, builders of national unity and torchbearers of a brighter tomorrow. A total of 2,002 corps members took part in the swearing-in ceremony, comprising 804 males and 1,198 females. Some residents of Port Harcourt have expressed concern over the continued rise in the prices of staple commodities across markets in the country. They lamented that the increasing cost of basic food items is making daily living more difficult for many families. Speaking in an interview with Today FM's Odinakachi Celestine, the residents noted that from major food markets to neighborhood shops, the prices of essential items have skyrocketed, leaving many households struggling to cope. While calling on the government to take urgent steps to regulate the persistent increase in the cost of staple foods, the listed items such as fresh pepper, tomatoes, gari, beans, yam, oil, rice and crayfish, among those that have significantly gone up in price.
As of today, a bucket of crayfish is sold at 12,000. This is a crayfish that they were selling 3,500 to 5,000 for. Now, even people are saying rice is coming down in price of 70 something and I think 60 something. Are we supposed to be celebrating rice at 60 something or 70 something thousand? And our uncle, when our minimum wage is 70,000. So if you collect your salary, you can only buy just a bag of rice. Are we talking about leaf? Ordinary leaf, a head of water leaf in the market now that used to be sold 50 naira, 3,200 is sold at 400 naira for one.
You will go to buy something, and the worst part of it is that things are increasing, but the salary still remain constant. For over how many years we have been hearing of price of things will come down, but still no way.
There's a lot of changes in buying now. Sometimes before we are buying fish a stick 300, but now we are buying 700. Tomatoes cost that was 5,000, but now we are buying out to 8,000. So you are afraid what in so many ways.
A trader also shared his frustrations, attributing the price surge to factors such as high transportation costs, insecurity on highways, and the rising cost of fuel. He revealed that they now spend nearly double the amount to transport goods from food-producing regions in the country.
Business is now affecting everybody in the country. In my own, the business is affecting me very well. Before I was buying meat very cheap, but this time the thing is very expensive that I cannot even cut it and get any gain again. So the thing is really affecting us, even our economy, even our children. The thing affects even the children.
As the world commemorates World Breastfeeding Week, stakeholders in the health sector are calling for the implementation of supportive policies and practices that promote breastfeeding. They are also advocating for workplace accommodations and community-based support systems that empower mothers to breastfeed with confidence. Speaking during the flag-off ceremony of the 2025 World Breastfeeding Week, which runs from August 1 to 7, the acting permanent secretary of the River State Ministry of Health, Dr. Vincent Wachuku, emphasized that the week is dedicated to highlighting the critical impact of breastfeeding on the health and well-being of both infants and mothers. Dr. Wachuku noted that breastfeeding should not be seen as the sole responsibility of mothers, but as a shared commitment that involves families, communities, workplaces, and healthcare systems. He described breast milk as a powerhouse of nutrients, offering optimal nutrition and protection against various illnesses.
We need to recognize that breastfeeding is not solely the responsibility of the mother, but requires a collective effort from families, communities, workplaces, and healthcare systems. Breast milk is a powerhouse of nutrients, offering optimal nutrition, nourishment, and protection against various illnesses. We can raise awareness about the benefits of breastfeeding, dispel myths and misconceptions, and promote supportive policies and practices. We can empower mothers with the knowledge and resources they need to breastfeed successfully, and we can also advocate for workplace accommodation and community support systems that enable them to breastfeed with confidence.
On his part, the Senior Special Advisor on Health to the Sole Administrator, Professor Chituru Oluwene, said breastfeeding is mutually beneficial to both the infant and the mother, and not a selfish exercise.
Breastfeeding is mutually beneficial. It's not a selfish exercise that benefits only the baby and does not benefit the mother. It protects the baby from multifarious infections and diseases, particularly infections of the gastrointestinal system, diarrhea, respiratory infection. Depending how you look at it, it is pure. It provides for the baby the right balance of nutrients, which you cannot get from any other formula feeding. In Rivers State, we recognize that breastfeeding is more than just a feeding method. It's an investment in the future. It's a cost-effective, sustainable, and empowering choice for mothers and families. We also know that breastfeeding can present challenges. The greatest of the challenges is lack of a sustainable and support system.
The Minister of Health, Ali Pate, says the industrial action embarked upon by the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, NANNM, has been called off. Speaking to newsmen after a closed-door meeting today, Pate said the decision followed agreements reached with the leadership of the Nursing Association. However, the leaders of the union declined to speak on the matter after the closed-door meeting. Nurses and midwives under the association had commenced a warning strike on July 29, 2025, following what the union described as the government's failure to respond meaningfully to its 15-day ultimatum issued on July 14, 2025. The warning strike involving nurses in public health institutions across the country was expected to continue till August 5, 2025. The strike stemmed from long-standing concerns about nurses' welfare and poor working conditions and the government's reluctance to address their concerns. The union had demanded improved welfare, fair allowances, and better working conditions for nurses across federal health institutions. Meanwhile, the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives, NANNM, Federal Health Institution Sector, has denied reports that the union has suspended its ongoing nationwide 7-day warning strike. Speaking with newsmen, the National Public Relations Officer of NANNM FHI, Omomo Tibebi, clarified that the strike, which began on Wednesday, remains in effect despite a meeting with the minister earlier in the day. The nurses embarked on the strike to press home their long-standing demands, including an upward review of shift allowance, adjustment of uniform allowance, a separate salary structure for nurses, and an increase in core duty allowance, mass recruitment of nurses, and the establishment of a nursing department in the Federal Ministry of Health, among others. He added that the union's National Executive Council would meet tomorrow to review the federal government's promises and determine the next line of action. You're listening to the World News on Today95.1 FM, Voice of the People. After the break, more news, foreign and sports stories. Stay tuned.
Every day, every hour, when the big stories break, depend on our 24-hour news team to bring you the latest. Today, 95.1 FM.
Thanks for staying tuned. Welcome back to the rest of the stories. The Dangote Petroleum Refinery and Petrochemicals has appointed David Bird, the former head of Oman's Duqm Refinery, as its new chief executive officer. A report by S&P Global said Bird heads the refinery's Petroleum and Petrochemicals division in a strategic move to overcome production challenges and advance its next wave of expansion. Effective from July 2025, the former Shell head of operations at its Balao Pokom refinery stepped in as CEO of the Dangote Group's fuels and petrochemicals business, which commissioned the world's largest single-train refinery last year. The CEO participated at the just concluded Dangote Leadership Development Program graduation ceremony. The appointment signals the company's renewed focus on scaling production, streamlining operations, and positioning itself as a dominant force in Africa's refining and petrochemical landscape. The Executive Secretary of the Universal Basic Education Commission, Aisha Garba, has declared that Nigeria's education sector is facing a crisis of great magnitude, requiring the concerted efforts of all stakeholders to ensure quality basic education for children. Speaking at a stakeholders meeting co-hosted by the Nigeria Governors Forum and UBEC in Abuja, Garba highlighted the dual challenges of the country's massive out-of-school population, recently estimated by UNESCO at 20 million, the growing learning crisis. Children enrolled in schools fail to acquire basic literacy and numeracy skills. According to a statement, the meeting brought together top education policy makers from all 36 states alongside technical experts and development partners from the World Bank, European Union and UNICEF. In her opening address, Garba warned that the future of millions of children and the nation's overall development were at risk, emphasizing the urgent need for synergy among stakeholders. As part of efforts to address the crisis, she unveiled the Hope Edu program, a major government initiative developed in partnership with international donors. Unions in Nigeria's aviation sector have issued a 7-day ultimatum to the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, over the prolonged delay in implementing a new salary structure for workers under the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency. In a joint letter dated July 31, the unions expressed frustration that despite concluding negotiations with NAMA management over 8 months ago, agreed salary adjustments remained unimplemented. The letter was signed by the General Secretaries of the Air Transport Services Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, National Union of Air Transport Employees, Association of Nigeria Aviation Professionals, and the Amalgamated Union of Public Corporations, Civil Service, Technical and Recreational Services Employees. The ultimatum, which expires on August 7, warns of a total withdrawal of services by aviation workers if the issue is not resolved. The unions lamented that the salary adjustment negotiation had been concluded with the agency's management, but regretted that its outcome had not been implemented in the past 8 months. The unions threatened that by the expiration of the ultimatum, should the situation persist, all workers in NAMA would commence a withdrawal of their services nationwide. And on the foreign scene, Senegal says it will take steps, including raising taxes and renegotiating energy contracts to raise almost $10 billion over 3 years to help it deal with a debt crisis. The new measures are aimed at reassuring investors after the International Monetary Fund, IMF, said last week that it will begin discussions with the country next month toward new funding. Senegalese bonds declined on Friday. Eurobonds due in 2033 dropped 0.7% to 73.98 cents on the dollar by 2 p.m. in London. According to Bloomberg report, Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko said that over the coming months, the government will cut spending and take measures to boost domestic revenue as part of efforts to stabilize public finances and restore investor confidence. To end the news, here's a summary of the major stories. Port Harcourt residents have lamented the soaring food prices amid the economic hardship in the country. You heard that INEC will commence nationwide voter registration in August 18, 2025. And on the foreign scene, we told you that Senegal says it will take steps to raise $10 billion by 2028 to avert debt crisis. And that's the news, as edited by Ifunanya Obemendukwe. For comments and inquiries, please call 0818-389-2850 or send your emails to news@todayfmlive.com. You can also read our stories on www.todayfmlive.com. I am Faustina Uputu. Good evening. Thank you for listening.
Today's news, today's entertainment, today's sports, today's issues. Today on Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt.
Today 95.1 FM, where news meets insight, sports meets passion, and entertainment meets excellence. Expert analysis from seasoned professionals and our top analysts, informing, educating, and entertaining you. Your voice, your station. We are the voice of the people.
Have you ever been in a situation where you had to pay a fine for an indictment? Then you later found out that there was an already established law to protect you from that penalty. Have you ever been denied a position because of your gender or disability? Have you ever been discriminated, treated unfairly, assaulted or cheated by your landlord, employer, tax collectors, bank, family, business partners, and the police? What if the breach between you and justice is just the right knowledge? I'm sure you've heard that knowledge is power. Join us every Saturday, 10 to 10:30 a.m. on Today95.1 FM for the program The Law Today, to get acquainted with your legal rights and beneficial interests as a citizen of Nigeria. The Law Today, 10 to 10:30 a.m. every Saturday, is brought to you by Today95.1 FM, Port Harcourt.
Say no to the ordinary. Embrace the extraordinary, because we are the voice of the people. Voice of the people. Today, 95.1 FM.
Today, 95.1 FM.
Hello and good evening. Once again, this is Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt, Voice of the People. And it's time again for a rundown of the foreign news stories that made the headlines in the world today. I am Faustina Uputu. In the headlines, South Africa's President Ramaphosa still hopeful of trade deal with United States. Senegal Prime Minister Sonko unveils economic recovery plan. UN warns of rising ISIS Al-Qaeda threats in Africa and Syria. Zelensky demands tougher sanctions after Russian strikes kill 31 in Kyiv. El Salvador abolishes presidential term limits, extends term length. And now the news in details. We begin from South Africa, where Cyril Ramaphosa, its president, has said he was still hopeful of a trade deal with the United States. U.S. President Donald Trump's 30% tariff on all South African exports announced on Thursday are set to come into effect on August 7. With the U.S., its second biggest trading partner, Trump's decision is a huge blow to the South Africa. Ramaphosa said intensive negotiations with Washington were underway and that a mutually beneficial trade package had been put on the table. South Africa's agricultural and automotive industries are expected to be among the hardest hit, with widespread job losses expected. The country already has an unemployment rate of more than 32%, one of the highest in the world. The Senegalese government has unveiled a comprehensive economic recovery plan aimed at strengthening public finances and revitalizing the national economy. Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko presented the measures during a high-profile announcement outlining key fiscal reforms expected to generate hundreds of billions of FCFA. One of the plan's pillars is the regularization of contracts at Senelec, Senegal's national electricity company, with a focus on combating technical fraud. The government estimates this measure alone could recover over 90 billion cefas in lost revenue. Additionally, the Prime Minister directed the Minister of Communication and Telecommunications to introduce fees for the audiovisual sector, including standardized rates for advertisements and digital services. South African scientists have launched an anti-poaching campaign in which rhinos' horns will be injected with a radioactive material. The group from the University of the Witwatersrand said the process is harmless to rhinos but will allow custom officers to detect smuggled horns as they are transported across the world. South Africa has the largest rhino population in the world, and hundreds of the animals are poached there every year. The university's venture, called the Rhizostope Project, cost around £290,000 and involves 6 years of research and testing. Professor Larkin added that the pilot study, which involved 20 rhinos, confirmed that the radioactive material was completely safe for the animals. The threat posed by Islamic State and Al-Qaeda extremists is escalating in Africa and Syria, according to a new UN report. UN experts say Africa remains the epicenter of terror activity, with groups like Al-Qaeda-linked JNIM in West Africa and Al-Shabaab in the east steadily expanding the territory. In the Sahel, JNIM is reportedly capable of complex attacks involving drones and IEDs, while Al-Shabaab maintains strongholds in Somalia and deepens ties with Yemen's Houthi rebels. Syria is emerging as a key strategic base for both ISIS and Al-Qaeda's external operations following the ouster of President Bashar Assad. Over 5,000 foreign fighters were reportedly involved in the December offensive that toppled Damascus. U.S.-imposed tariffs have spelled disaster for Lesotho factory that exported clothes to American stores. Now those tariffs have been reduced, but it could be too late. The deafening roar of hundreds of sewing machines has gone silent. Spools of thread in every color are covered in dust. The warehouse is dark and empty. In the tiny African nation of Lesotho, clothing manufacturers Tiz's business has dried up in the face of tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump's administration. Away from Africa to the rest of the world. U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, has for the first time visited a controversial Israel and U.S.-backed aid distribution site in Gaza. Witkoff said the purpose of the trip to a Gaza Humanitarian Foundation (GHF) site was to give Trump a clear understanding of the humanitarian situation and help craft a plan to deliver food and medical aid to the people of Gaza. The visit follows nearly daily reports of deadly shootings at GHF points, with the UN reporting at least 859 Palestinians killed in the vicinity of the site, a figure the GHF rejects. Israel says its troops have only fired warning shots and that they do not intentionally shoot civilians. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for stronger international sanctions on Russia after a deadly attack on Kyiv killed at least 31 people. Zelensky said 5 children, the youngest aged 2, were among the dead, including 16 children had been wounded in the assault on the Ukrainian capital on Thursday. Kyiv observed a day of mourning after the attack collapsed an apartment block and damaged a hospital, school, nursery, and university. U.S. President Donald Trump condemned Russia's actions in Ukraine and suggested new sanctions against Moscow were coming. The White House has announced plans to build a $200 million new ballroom, fulfilling an often repeated desire of U.S. President Donald Trump. The new ballroom will be built alongside a modernized East Wing of the White House, which currently houses the offices of First Lady Melania Trump and other key White House posts. The money will be donated directly by Trump and others so far anonymous donors, with work beginning in September, according to Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Trump has repeatedly promised to build a beautiful ballroom at the White House, and in 2016 offered to pay $100 million during Barack Obama's administration, which the then president rejected. Slovenia has banned the import, export and transit of weapons to and from Israel, becoming the first European Union member state to do so in a bid to pressure the Israeli government over its war in Gaza. Palestinians are dying because humanitarian aid is systematically denied them. Slovenian Premier Robert Golob said when announcing the move, saying that Israel's actions constitute serious violations of international law. It is not the first time the Alpine nation of 2.1 million has taken steps against Israel before other members of the bloc, aiming to force Premier Benjamin Netanyahu to end hostilities in the Middle East. Slovenia recognized Palestine as an independent state in 2024, following Spain, Ireland and Norway. An appeals court in Bosnia-Herzegovina has confirmed a prison sentence for Bosnia Serb President Milorad Dodik for disregarding the decisions of an international peace envoy, a charge the pro-Russian nationalist politician has dismissed as politically motivated. Dodik was appealing a sentence handed to him in February for defying the Constitutional Court as well as the peace envoy. It included a 1-year prison term that under Bosnia's legal system may be exchanged for a fine, as well as a 6-year ban on political activities. Goran Bubic, Dodik's lawyer, said they would appeal the ruling to the Constitutional Court and seek a delay of the implementation of the verdict pending appeal. Spain has said it had airdropped 12 tons of food into Gaza, which UN-backed experts say is slipping into famine. The mission deployed 23 parachutes, each capable of carrying 500 kilos of food for a total of 12 tons, enough for 11,000 people, said Foreign Minister Jose Manuel Alvarez. Spain also has aid waiting to cross into Gaza by road from Egypt, the minister added in a video message posted on social network X, along with a video of the operation. Spain joins other Western countries, including Britain and France, that have recently partnered with Middle Eastern nations to deliver humanitarian supplies by air to the Palestinian enclave. El Salvadoran lawmaker voted to abolish presidential term limits as part of constitutional reforms that could allow the country's populist president, Nayib Bukele, to remain in power indefinitely. Under the reformed electoral system, the previous 5-year term is increased to 6 years, and a restriction limiting presidents to a single term is removed, allowing El Salvador's executive to run for office an unlimited number of times. Members of Bukele's new IDS party in the Legislative Assembly voted through the reform on Thursday, 18 months after Bukele won a second term in a landslide victory, despite a constitutional prohibition on consecutive terms. The Supreme Court, packed with pro-Bukele justices, waived the ban on grounds that it infringed Bukele's human rights. Opposition politicians and human rights organizations condemned the move, saying it removed one of the last remaining checks on power and brought the country a step closer to becoming a one-party state. That story concludes tonight's edition of The World Today, as produced by Priye Izogu of the News Department. But before we go, here's the summary of the stories that made the headlines. South Africa's President Ramaphosa has said he is still hopeful of a trade deal with United States. Senegal Prime Minister Sonko has unveiled an economic recovery plan. We told you that UN has warned of a rising ISIS Al-Qaeda threats in Africa and Syria. You heard that Zelensky has demanded tougher sanctions after Russian strikes kill 31 in Kyiv. And finally, we told you that El Salvador has abolished presidential term limits, extends term limit. Till same time next week, Monday, do have a lovely weekend. Thank you so much for listening. I am Faustina Oputu.
Tune in for a journey beyond the ordinary.
Fasten your seatbelts.
We are not just a station, we are the station. Today, 95.1 FM, the voice of the people.
It's been an exciting week. It's been an awesome week. And just in case you missed out on our big stories this week, we got you covered. Rewind comes up every Saturday, 6:30 a.m. And here you get your total rundown of all the big stories and trends for the week in River State. And this is brought to you by your premium talk radio, Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt. Rewind, 6:30 a.m. every Saturday. Don't miss it.
Nothing like the good old classic music and reminding the new school of where it all started from. Get the best of classic old school music back to back.
Nostalgia Drive
From 10:30 p.m. to 11 p.m.
every Saturday.